In this episode, we talk about protests in Bangladesh and India over the arrest of a Hindu monk. We also talk about Odisha police arresting a man for engaging in animal cruelty during a performance of Ramayana. But first, we talk about what an Indian Express investigation reveals about sewer deaths in the capital. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Over the past 15 years, a total of 94 people have died while cleaning sewers in Delhi. These incidents involve Safai Karmcharis being sent inside sewers to remove blockages where they lose their lives after inhaling gases that are extremely toxic.
So sewer death by simply it is people entering the sewer to clear the blockage to ensure the free flow of the sewer. And at that very moment during cleaning the sewer, due to the release of toxic gases, a death happens in the city.
That's Indian Express's Dheeraj Mishra. According to an investigation conducted by him, it turns out that of all the cases involving sewer deaths, only one person has been convicted by the courts in the past 15 years. In this segment, my colleague Shashank Bhargava speaks to Dheeraj about the highlights of his investigation.
Dheeraj, let's just begin by clarifying something. This kind of sewer cleaning that we are talking about, that's illegal, right?
Yeah, if you go by the law, there is a 2013 law prohibition on manual scavenging, Prohibition of Manual Scavenging Act 2013. It bars any kind of hazardous manual cleaning. It's clearly prohibited, but there is a kind of lacuna as well in itself in the law. It says that in some extraordinary situations, a person can be allowed to go inside the sewer, but provided that he should be provided with, there are a list of 44 types of protective gears. So you will have to provide these protective gears to the Safai Kamchari if you are asking him to enter inside the sewer and clean it. So these protective gears ranges from everything. It is from mask, gloves, light, gumboot, coveralls, a number of things. You can imagine 44 protective gears. So it mandates the government body, also the hotels, any kind of private premise, any kind of government premises, they will have to provide it to a Safai Kamchari if they are asking him to enter the sewer. But as we have revealed in this investigation, it doesn't happen, and these deaths occur due to the very basic thing is they do not provide protective gear. That is why it is happening. But ideally, what the long road map of the law is to achieve 100% mechanization, 100% of cleaning of the sewer through machines. But that is not happening, and one after another, Safai Kamcharis are dying.
Also, and this is something we've highlighted in the past as well, most of these people who end up cleaning these sewer tanks, one, are poor, and two, they belong to the Valmiki community.
Yeah. The people who are involved in these type of work, I would say that they are forced to do these kind of work. Most of them belong from a Valmiki community because it is coming from generation to generation. It has passed on from one generation to another generation. Earlier, it was manual scavenging. Now government says that, manual scavenging is nowhere in the country. It is banned, and we have rehabilitated people who are involved in manual scavenging. But I don't think that is the ground reality. That is the truth. It is also happening in some other places. But so it's the sewer cleaning, that what flows inside the sewer, everything from plastic, from glass, from different type of mechanical things to manual excreta that flows in the sewer. But the definition in itself, the activists, the people who are working in these areas, they have been raising these issues for a very long time, that you will have to, define the manual cleaning or the sewer cleaning in a right manner. What these Safai Kamcharis are forced to do, that is very much equivalent to the manual scavenging, because they have to touch the manual excreta, they have to clean it. So you cannot bypass and say that there is no manual scavenging happening in the country. So it's a work. I would not say it's a work. It's a kind of thing which is imposed on a particular section of the society, and it's caste-based work. It is forced on the basis of their caste.
And your investigation mentions that over the past 15 years, a total of 94 people have died while cleaning sewers in Delhi. But the records are only available for 75 of those cases. And out of those 75 deaths, there has been only one conviction. Could you talk about why, despite this being illegal, because all of these people who died obviously weren't wearing any protective gear, what is the reason that despite this, there is such a low number of conviction in these cases?
So the one conviction that we have that you just mentioned, and that is in the investigation, that one conviction was also only for 6 months, and the person got the bail immediately. So he was released on the bail on that very hearing during a judge announced conviction of that person. So these very low number of conviction, these very low number of, very, very few people are going to jail. The reason is these people, these victims are coming from a very lower state of the society. They do not have resources. They do not have power. They do not have money. They do not have that kind of social circle from where they can seek help and go to the court. A. Point number B is these incidents have happened at very high places, including some of the very 5-star hotels, banquet halls, even inside the premises of, the very government body which is responsible for the cleaning of the city.
Wait, it has happened inside the premises of a government authority?
Yeah, inside the premises of like Delhi Development Authority, inside the premises of the government body also, inside the premises of very high profile hotels, inside the premises of, some guru who is running satsang ashram, and those places people have died, and inside the premises of very big companies, which are involved in the crores and crores of turnover.
Okay, so let's imagine a hypothetical case. For example, you own a company and the nearby sewage is blocked. You perhaps tell the person in charge of cleaning at your place that this issue needs to be resolved. Now, that person might call a Safai Karamchari, and in most of these cases, you write that nothing is written. There is no paperwork for it. So he might just call the person and say that, I'll give you an X amount of money for your day's wage. And then that person will clean the sewer and they won't be given any protective gear. Now, in this case, who will be responsible for the person's death? Is it the person who called the Safai Karamchari, or is it you, the employer?
So in this case, ideally, both the person will be responsible. The principal employer, like let's say I'm a company, let's say I'm a XYZ company, and I have hired somebody to clean the premises. I've hired a contractor. The contractor needs hiring Safai Kamcharis to come and work in the hotel, malls, or whatever it is. So in this case, both the people will be held accountable. They must be held accountable. That is what law says. That is what National Commission for Safai Kamcharis has been saying for years and years. But this doesn't happen, we know. And the very sad reality of, it comes to our mind. So we are the privileged people, but it also comes to mind that, why a certain person is forced to go inside the sewer. The daily wage of cleaning services is already very low. Let's say 300 rupees, maybe 400 rupees. And if a contractor says that, I will give you 450 rupees if you will go inside sewer, just for 50 rupees, the person enters inside the sewer and dies. This is the reality, because he sees the 50 rupees margin that he will get, that 50 rupees extra. It doesn't matter for us, but then 50 and 100 rupees can force a person in a way to go in the sewer and clean it. So that's a very sad reality. And these things are not regularized. These things are not monitored on a daily basis, not from any agency. Now Ministry of Social Justice is doing some kind of surveys, giving some training to the Safai Kamcharis and all. I don't know how that will be implemented, but there is not very clear monitoring of that who is the person hiring the Safai Kamcharis. These organizations, let's say any mall, any hotel, any hospital, even government agency, they do not have very clear record that, let's say I'm a contractor. I promise you that, I will bring 50 Safai Kamcharis and clean the complete area. You gave me some money, but you do not exactly know, or in other words, you do not even care to know that who am I as long as I give you services. In many cases, people are not even being arrested. They are not going for jail even for 10-15 days.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your report that there are a number of reasons that the police cites for not being able to find the suspect. Tell us some of those reasons that the police has told the court in the past.
Yeah, in some of the cases, so police is saying that police have filed untraced report. In some cases, they filed closure report. Untraced report means they were not able to find either accused or witness of the case. So what happens in a case, let's say there were two people present at the site of the incident, one supervisor and one Safai Kamchari. Safai Kamchari enters the sewer and he dies. And so only one person is remaining supervisor. But so they are saying that we are not able to prove that it was the supervisor who asked that person to go in the sewer and clean it. And in many cases, what happens, let's say 2-3 Safai Kamcharis goes to the spot and enters the sewer and all of them dies. Now they are saying that we do not have any proof that who asked who to enter, to clean, to do all these things. So these are the basis, these are the things that they find untraced report, that we were not able to trace accused or witness to establish a case. And that is how cases are getting closed.
And you also write that according to the law, the government has to compensate the family of the victims with 30 lakh rupees. And many of those families have been struggling to get that compensation. But besides this, you also spoke to the chairman of the National Commission for Safai Karamcharis. What did he have to say about what needs to change? One thing, of course, is the inherent casteism here. So that's one thing. The other thing is for the government to mechanize this entire process. It should not require a human to physically clear a sewer. And despite all technological progress, this is something that we have still not been able to do. So there is all that. But just in terms of the lack of convictions, what is it that the commission says needs to be done?
I think as you pointed out, and this is what chairman was also saying, that something illegal is happening in the city until and unless you hold somebody accountable. If somebody is punished from certain crimes, then you will set a precedent in the society. Then there will be some kind of, worry, some kind of fear among the authorities, among the people, among the employers that, you have to comply with that 2013 Act. So this is one thing, that hold people accountable, and not only some random people, hold the main people responsible, the main people, the top people behind this. Number one. Number two, he was saying that in the FIR, when a FIR is being registered in these sewer theft cases, we have to include the name of the principal employer. The principal employer cannot get away with saying that, this was the work of some random contractual cleaning agency. And he also went beyond and he said that, we have to include the name of municipal commissioner. The FIR must be registered against the municipal commissioner. Once you register an FIR, then there will be some kind of, deterrent, and they will take it seriously. They will take action against the people. Third thing is that you have to regularize, you have to clearly monitor this whole cleaning process across the country. You should have a clear database of the people, of Safai Kamcharis, and clear database of the agencies involved in these cleaning services. And these agencies must be registered with the Labor Department, so that, the government must have their financial details, that where is money coming from, where is it going, what are they doing, who are these people, when was this company formed, are they filing return, all the standard parameter, they must follow it. And if you will know the company properly, they will have some kind of, a fear that, they are being checked, they are being, watched from the government regularly. Then they will have to deal with the Safai Kamchari in a humane manner.
And you mentioned how little Safai Karamcharis earn, and your report also gets into that, because there is also a problem of how regularly they actually get paid. So tell us what the commission told you about that.
The payment of Safai Kamcharis, which is not regular, which is not clear, it's based on daily wage. It's on the, it's a whims and fancies of the contractors. Whatever he feels like, whatever he offers, he will give it to the Safai Kamchari. So he was saying that there must be a standard pay, a monthly payment to the Safai Kamchari. It can be either from the government side, or it must be fixed, so that a uniform salary must be, ensured for the Safai Kamcharis.
Next, we talk about protests in India and Bangladesh. Last week, massive protests erupted in Bangladesh after Chinmoy Krishna Das, a Hindu monk, was arrested on the charges of sedition. Now, after a court denied Das bail, India expressed deep concerns and urged authorities to ensure the safety and security of Hindus and all minorities in the neighboring country. In fact, on Monday, protests also erupted in Agartala, where an unruly mob breached the security barricades of the Assistant High Commission in the city. Yesterday, in response to this, Bangladesh summoned the Indian envoy Pranay Verma and halted visa consular services in Agartala. In this segment, we speak to the Indian Express's diplomatic affairs editor, Shubhajit Roy, about this case. Shubhajit, this entire matter began with the arrest of the Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna Brahmachari. Can you tell us who he is and what led to his arrest?
Well, he is basically a monk associated with the ISKCON group. ISKCON has branch in Bangladesh as well, and he's been associated with that. Also, he's a member of what is called Bangladesh Sammilito Sanatan Jagran Jot group. Essentially, it's sort of a Hindu group in Bangladesh. So he was essentially part of protests which were taking place in Chattogram, which is also called Chittagong in southeastern Bangladesh, where he was part of the rallies demanding security for Hindus. And there he apparently sort of disrespected the Bangladesh's national flag. That's the charge against him. And the charges were filed, against him in Chattogram. And then last week, when he was at the Bangladesh airport, he was arrested before he was going to board a flight from Dhaka to Chattogram, or Dhaka, basically at the Dhaka airport. So essentially, that's the trigger. And Bangladesh police arrested him and then on sedition charges. And next day, the court in Dhaka denied him bail. So that sparked sort of protests across not just Dhaka, but also in other parts of Bangladesh. And the Indian government then sort of issued a statement expressing deep concern and asked authorities to ensure the safety and security of Hindus and all minorities in Bangladesh. So that's how that's been the trigger of the current recent sort of events and developments in Bangladesh.
And after New Delhi expressed concerns about this, how did Bangladesh react to it?
Bangladesh sort of essentially said that it's internal matter of Bangladesh and said that, such sort of unfounded statements not only misrepresent facts, but also sort of stand contrary to the spirit of friendship and understanding between the two neighboring countries. So that was sort of the statement that they put out after the Indian government issued a statement on the arrest of the monk. And so that's been the Bangladesh's sort of position on this issue. And they also said that the matter is at present being dealt with by the court of law. And one of their local government affairs advisor, who's also a student leader, Asif Mahmood, he said that, Das was arrested not as a leader of any community, but for sedition. And he said that, if someone is involved in any incident like sedition, he will not be spared. So essentially, that was the tone and tenor that, if Bangladesh's sovereignty and independence are endangered or the country is exposed to dishonor or contempt, the government will definitely take steps. These are sort of the quotes of the comments from the Bangladesh government advisor, who's also a former student leader. One of the two student leaders who became part of the government, led by Professor Muhammad Yunus, who's leading the interim government as the chief advisor.
And Shubhajit, for some time now, we have been hearing about reports regarding attacks on minorities in Bangladesh. Has that especially been the case since Sheikh Hasina was ousted as the Prime Minister?
Well, as I've noted before as well, in the past, since 5th of August, since Hasina sort of left the country and been in India, living in exile, and sort of there's been attacks on or targeting of people associated with the Hasina government, Hasina's party, the Awami League party, essentially people aligned with that regime. So they could have been Hindus, they could have been Muslims. The religion really didn't matter as long as they were seen to be aligned with the Awami League. So that's how they were targeted in the post-August 5th sort of period. And there were also attacks which are opportunistic, So essentially, because Bangladesh police had sort of left their posts, abandoned their posts, left the police stations. So essentially, there was no law enforcement personnel on the street in the first few days, few weeks before the army really stepped in. And even then, army's presence was pretty not that extensive as Bangladesh police's was. So people who were opportunistic essentially took advantage of the lack of law enforcement machinery on the streets or in the country, in the villages, in the countryside. And they sensed an opportunity and looted or sort of tried to settle the old disputes. It could be a land dispute, it could be a property dispute, it could be just sort of past enmity or just looting of cash from establishments belonging to those from the Awami League establishment. So in that, the Hindu community, which largely aligns with the Awami League, also faced the brunt. So that's how the Hindu community feels that there's a sense of insecurity, there's a sense of lack of safety, and also sort of they felt that the current administration seemed not so sympathetic to their cause.
And we also saw Sheikh Hasina react to this recent arrest. Can you talk about what she said?
Yeah, she also sort of talked about it was a first statement, categorical statement on this particular issue, on the treatment of Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. And she also said that, this guy should be released and ask for protection and safety of the Hindu minorities, which has been her sort of constituency for all these years. And in fact, if you remember, the Indian government has been pressing the situation of Hindu minorities since the beginning of August, after these targeting of people associated with Awami League started, and which Hindus were also the victims in some of these cases. And Prime Minister had tweeted, then Prime Minister Modi, when he spoke to Professor Yunus, he flagged that issue. In fact, in one of the phone calls with US President Biden also, the Indian side had put out that how Prime Minister Modi had raised the issue of the Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. And in the last 4-5 months, Indian government has been talking about the situation in Bangladesh and framing it as a situation which is where the safety and security of minorities has been in danger, has been in jeopardy, and marking out Hindus as one of those who are facing the brunt the most. So that has been the sort of articulation from the Indian government. The Bangladeshi government obviously has been pushing back on this sort of narrative, and even leading Bangladeshi columnists, intellectuals have been talking about the fact that India is sort of framing this particular situation in Bangladesh only in terms of Hindus being targeted. And that has caused a lot of anxiety in Bangladesh society as well, that India is only sort of concerned about the Hindu groups or Hindu leaders or Hindu community, and is sort of only talking about the state. It's the situation in Bangladesh from that perspective. Indian government obviously has been pressing on this and repeatedly, and the recent statements that we saw in the last few days following the arrest of the Hindu monk also has to be seen in that light.
And at this time, in the light of this narrative, has the current government in Bangladesh reached out to the Hindu community there?
Well, so Professor Yunus, he went to meet the Hindu community leaders. He went to, I remember, the Dhakeshwari temple in Dhaka, which is like a big sort of landmark temple and met the Hindu community leaders. And even Jamaat-e-Islami and the BNP leaders also had met the Hindu leaders, community leaders in the country. But these attacks have been off and on. They sort of stopped for a bit, but there have been occasional attacks on some temples as well. So it's been a sort of a complicated affair when it came to targeting of the Hindu community in the last, say, 3-4 months.
A quick note, the following segment contains descriptions of animal cruelty. And in the end, we talk about a case of animal cruelty from Odisha. According to the Odisha police, a man was arrested yesterday for ripping open the stomach of a live pig and eating its raw meat during a Ramayana performance, allegedly in an attempt to outshine a rival act. The incident took place last month in Odisha's Ganjam district during a performance staged by the suspect's troupe. The accused, identified as Bimbadra Gowda, a 50-year-old farmer, was reportedly playing the role of a demon. According to the Indian Express's Sujit Bisoi, the police registered a case under animal cruelty laws a week after the video of the act went viral. The case, filed suo motu, followed widespread outrage across the state, with the incident even being discussed during the ongoing assembly session. Organizing performances of epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata is a long-standing tradition in southern Odisha, especially in Ganjam. These plays, which typically last between 12 and 15 hours, cost between 1.5 to 2 lakh rupees per show. Investigators are currently examining whether the inclusion of such a scene was directed by the event organizers. Experts note a troubling rise in animal cruelty during such jatra performances, sparking concerns over the ethical boundaries of such practices. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.